So we have more news coming out of Goldman Sachs this morning. This time, the Wall Street firm seems to be getting on the right side of corporate governance. At least that seems to be the case. They've decided to fend off an attempt to try and split the chairman and CEO roles by creating a post called lead director. Sounds good. Morgan Stanley does it. But, Rob, you're looking at this. Maybe it's not quite as wonderful as it seems.
Well, it's like saying to somebody who already has a Toyota, hey, look, we're going to call this thing a Honda. And it's going to be really great. We're going to call it a Mercedes. And you say, oh, wait, I have a Mercedes now. No, they already had a presiding director. And one of the arguments that Goldman Sachs consistently made to us and to others in the past for not splitting the chairman and CEO roles is the fact they have a presiding director who assumes many of the duties that you would expect from a split, non-executive, whatever you will,
so, I mean, those would be what? You look after the board.
You look after the board. You basically, you kind of look at the agenda. You preside when the chairman is not present for a board meeting. I mean, many of the same things. Now, they've added a couple, probably embellished a little bit the title, but it's essentially the same role that John Bryan's had.
They're just changing the name?
They're basically changing the name. Instead of calling it a presiding director, you're calling it a lead independent director. And then asks me, this labor union has said, okay, well, that sounds good. We'll back off from putting a proposal to shareholders.
Why are they falling for it, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe because they're now feeling like Muppets, as it were. I mean, they've basically been won over by Goldman's arguments, which I think is actually ludicrous. Because in this moment, or in May, when the board, when the shareholders would be
shareholder meeting,
when they'd be given this opportunity to vote, I think you'd have much more than a 20% chance, possibly even a better than 50% chance of shareholders going with the split.
But they're bringing in, they'll probably bring in someone new to do this role, right?
Right. So the good thing is, possibly you get someone better than John Bryan, who's the former Sara Lee guy. He's turned 75, or he's turned 75, and therefore can no longer anyway preside as director at Goldman Sachs. So maybe you get someone with a little more, oomph.
Maybe a bit more independent.
Maybe. I mean, one of the arguments that Morgan Stanley makes, which has the same structure, is that it's, I forget who it is, it's
Bob Kidder.
Bob Kidder over at Morgan Stanley is a little bit more active, say, than a Bryan.
Right.
I don't buy it. I mean, they've basically effectively renamed a title and gotten this labor union to pull off.
And Bryan was on his way out this year anyway, right? So
he's 75.
They're coming up with a new guy who was going to have to come in anyway to do a job that already has a great deal of duties already to fend off something that arguably shareholders should already
basically, Goldman Sachs effectively traded with its shareholders in the same way that this Greg Smith guy argued that it did with its clients. Got the better of them.
Well, it looks like a good trade for Goldman, at least, but let's see what shareholders make of this. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll be back tomorrow with more breaking views.